What is going on, Tenant Crew? My name is Billy the Squid, and we have a little bit of a roundup type video today. Today is the day that all of those Elden Ring network test codes should be getting sent out, so definitely keep an eye out for that. And let me know down in the comments below who got it and who did not, and what you plan on doing first in the network test. And the reason why I'm bringing up the network test now is because on the Elden Ring social medias, they have been going through a lot about what to expect. They have some starter classes, they have some helpful hints that they've been posting, as well as us on the Bandai Namco website finally having an idea of what we can expect from specs given the different ports of the game. So let's dive in on all of that. First things first, they, like I said, have some helpful hints out available to you. This is one of these snippets. It's talking about crouching. They are bringing back the Sekiro high grass mechanic, where if you're crouched in tall grass, you are pretty much invisible. I don't know if it's going to behave exactly like Sekiro. The network test will determine that. But definitely keep an eye out for this one. If it's as strong as it is in Sekiro, or like Horizon Zero Dawn, for instance, you might be able to do some very interesting builds, like luring things over to you, and maybe even be able to do executes from the tall grass. Very, very neat. They also doubled down on what the sites of grace are going to do, and it does seem like these guiding lights from the grace point to you to other grace. As we saw on the map system, it actually has arrows pointing from grace to a direction on those maps specifically. So I'm assuming that they are like basically a hop, skip, and a jump if you want to go a more linear formed out route that the game recommends. That is the way to do that. Or if you want to stretch out on your own, it doesn't seem like you are locked in one way or the other. It's just a suggestion. We also got a little bit more info on the stance breaking system. It seems like power attacks and jumping attacks are going to be very important for breaking posture and opening enemies up to critical hits. Very interesting there. I wonder if they're also going to have some sort of shield break mechanic, or if the jump attack and power attacks are going to kind of fill that role instead. Because I know shield breaking or shield kicking and stuff was a little bit finicky in some of the games. I know there's quite a few instances where I would kick instead of wanting to do a regular R1, so depending on how those mechanics work, it could be the new method for dealing with turtles. And lastly, on the helpful hints is something that seems completely new to From Software's repertoire. Instead of you just having to deal with respawning from bonfire sites of grace and stuff like that, there are these stakes of Marika. And what they are for basically is like a sub checkpoint. You're not able to level up at them. You're not able to do any spec type stuff. But whenever you die, you have the choice. I'm assuming a map will be brought up, and it'll either tell you, or maybe a selection. It'll be like, you died, respawn at Stake of Marika, or respawn at Last Side of Grace. Giving you the option, if you have a long trek back to where you're going, and you don't want to go back to the Side of Grace, you can use this, even though you will not be able to do any of the stat stuff that you would be able to do at a Side of Grace. You wouldn't be able to teleport either. So kind of a way, if you feel like you got duped and you're at a like world boss or something and you just need one more go, this is going to be the new way. It's interesting that they've got a second type of revival system. It just kind of goes to show how big the scope of the game is, and they're not wanting to spread sites of grace everywhere haphazardly, kind of like with Dark Souls 3 and how there was almost too many bonfires. This is kind of a happy little medium, I think. But getting into what to expect for the network test, like I said, let me know down in the comments if you all are got into that network test. It's going to be very, very exciting. I'm still waiting for my code as well. Fingers crossed that I get in, but even if I don't, there will be plenty more Elden Ring content coming your way, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're interested in that. But let's get a little bit deeper into what we are going to be getting from the network test. And specifically, we have images and names for the builds that they are going to allow for you to play as during the network test. Now, if this goes to show anything like prior network tests, these are like mid-game builds. These are not to be representative of what you are going to get from like a starter class option in the game. These are more like pre-built play styles that you can give a try, see how you like them, just putting you in mid-game to know kind of what to expect. So with that in mind, getting into it, we have these three here. We have the warrior, the enchanted knight, and the prophet. Let me kind of come over to the side here so you can get a little bit more of a view on the warrior. Warrior specifically looks unlike most of the warriors that we had. This honestly harkens back more to the sellsword class from Dark Souls 3. You can see it has the akimbo scimitars, very reminiscent of the sellsword twin blades from Dark Souls 3. Very interesting build, and I would assume this is going to be your dex variant or your skill variant of a class. I do like the fashion that they have on all of these, honestly. They did a really good job setting up like the mindset and the flavor that you are going to be selecting through armor selection. So very cool. Coming up next, you have the enchanted knight wielding a catalyst with a blue orb at the top of it. This is going to be your sorceries build, most likely. I do not see an alternate weapon, but that could also be just the sub weapons not loading on. But they do specifically have the 1 and 2 hand. They specifically have no side arms on any of them, nothing on the belts. So that's interesting. It may be just a staff, which means maybe the bonking of the catalyst actually does some damage. Maybe it's got some like magic scaling to the bonks. Or maybe in like this hand that's kind of off screen here, they have a dagger or a short sword or something. We don't know, but it kind of gets me excited that maybe magic is going to be a little bit more viable and you can do a pure caster build. But anyway, moving on to the prophet. We have a very zealous look. They have the wraps over the eyes, very symbolic of a lot of From Software games in extent with like religious practices. They have one of the wheels around their neck for some sort of repentance. Bell, I don't know if that is part of the uniform. I'm assuming that is part of the outfit and not a catalyst itself, because what they do have as a weapon seems to be a club and a wooden shield. Very old school, very primal, but I do have a feeling this is going to have miracles tied to it as well, given that it is called the prophet, and there seems to be, at least in the imagery, a very heavy tie to faith with this character. So these three, very, very exciting. We do have two others that I am going to get for you now. One you can see right now on the screen, and I will bring that image up here. We'll start from the right, is the Bloody Wolf. That is the character with the long flowing hair that they've kind of used as like the poster child build for the game. A very aesthetically pleasing poster child at that. And I'm assuming this is going to be more of your like quality style build. It looks like they have a parry shield. It looks like they have a claymore of some type, or maybe a longsword. But this, I have a feeling, is going to be more of a quality style build. You're more well-rounded build, a very good selection of armor if you are wanting to go into that. Maybe more along a knight line. If it's not a quality build, it's probably a heavy armor build going forward, which either way, that would be very, very cool. And the fact that it's called Bloody Wolf. From Software loves its wolf imagery. I wouldn't be surprised if this is another reference back to like the Artorias line or the Abyss Watchers line or anything like that. And I also have a feeling that the Bloody Wolf and the wolf aspect in this in general is going to be the theme of one of the legacy dungeons. And the reason I say that is because their Twitter had this image up not too long ago with the caption, "A wolf always bites at its master's enemies." So I have a feeling this is going to be like maybe a new pursuer type enemy that will stalk you throughout the game if you are getting too close to its homeland. This could also be like a mid-boss or maybe the final boss of a legacy dungeon. It's very unclear, but the wolf imagery in Elden Ring is strong, and I would not be surprised if an entire legacy dungeon is devoted to that imagery. But getting back to the starter classes, the last one I want to talk to you about is the champion starter class. And this reminds me more of the bandit build. But I have a feeling this is going to be your heavy strength build, considering it seems like a battle axe is being used. It doesn't appear to be a great axe as the primary weapon. Very exciting, very cool. I'm excited to see how like the armor types vary in this game. I'm curious if From Software is adding like secondary effects to armor types to make armor matter a little bit more. I know in a lot of the mods, you'll have armor that increases your dexterity, it increases your faith, increases your weapon deflection, or stuff along those lines, like stuff more than just defensive stat ups and downs to make lighter sets a little bit more viable other than just wanting to wear them for the light weight. And the last thing I want to bring up before we close this video, and if you did make it to this part in the video, pat yourself on the back. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. And let me know if you made it this far in the video. But getting into the final tidbit that I want to get into, we actually have how the game is going to run on all of the systems available. On the Bandai Namco website, we have the Elden Ring specs and compatibility. For PlayStation, it has it here. PS4, PS4 Pro, and PS5. We also have the PC compatibility, which, no surprise, you're able to take it up to 4K resolution, 60 frames per second. It's going to have HDR support, and also ray tracing is going to be supported via a patch. So that brings me to ray tracing not being available at the go. They're going to patch it in later. That is understandable. I'm assuming that this is one of the things that they had to like cut corners on to meet the now pushed back release date. The game itself matters more than making it look a little bit prettier. But coming back down to the PlayStation, your PS4s are going to run at 1920 by 1080 max at 30 frames per second. Very much, well, considering that Bloodborne runs at 720 max, 30 FPS, you're going to get a little bit more of a boost resolution-wise there. PS4 Pro is going to have a bit more resolution. Still going to be locked at that 30 FPS, though. And then your PS5s are going to have the best of the best, both 4K and 60 FPS, with a caveat. The 60 FPS is only going to be available at performance mode, which you can see right here. Performance mode is one of the two ways that you're going to be able to play the game, either through performance mode or through resolution mode. So performance mode is going to bring the resolution down, but keep you at that juicy 60 FPS. Resolution mode is going to give you the max resolution you can, but lock you at 30 FPS. Personally, performance mode is what I always play games on. FPS matters way more to me than what resolution does. But lastly, let's go over what we have on the Xbox. A little caveat here as well. If you have a PS4 and then you upgrade to a PS5, the upgrade will be free, but there is no backwards compatibility. So if you get a PS5 version of the game, you can't backport it to your PS4. Just keep that in mind. But back to the Xbox. The Xbox One and One S is going to have a little, and I mean very little, resolution drop compared to what the PS4 is going to be able to support. We also are still going to be locked to the 30 FPS, and there is no HDR support for the Xbox One and One S models. HDR is supported all across the line on PlayStation, so a little bit low. And this also confirms that the leaked footage that we saw could very well have been from an Xbox One or One S version, considering the resolutions and stuff. Everybody was freaking out about that. So there you are. For the One X, we get a higher resolution, still locked at 30. The Xbox Series S and X are both going to have high resolution. Xbox Series S locked at 2K, and then the SX for 4K. Both have 60 FPS. Very much a similar way to what PlayStation did, performance mode versus resolution mode. So whichever one tickles your fancy the most. Yeah, that is all we have for Elden Ring news at this point. The codes, like I said, should be coming out today. If you get into it, congratulations. If you don't, do not fret. There will be plenty of content and info out there about the game to wet your whistle until you are able to get your hands on it. But that being said, we are going to go now. Much love, Tenta Crew. Thank you for watching the video, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.